My name is Laurent Grosbois, and I wish to talk about my experience as Protection Cluster Coordinator in Libya, during which the largest part of my work was to address the threat in which civilian population was stranded in the active armed conflict. At the early stage of the crisis, the priority objective of the Protection Cluster advocacy was to facilitate humanitarian evacuation from conflict zones and negotiate access to the population in need. The point of the negotiation was not to prove one vision to be superior from the other, but to find pragmatic solutions with the parties to the conflict in ensuring the assistance and protection of civilians.
My name is Valerie Svobodova, and today I would like to share with you an example from Niger on a protection advocacy objective that was put together. So to start with a little bit of context, you may know that Niger is now in quite complex environment in terms of displacement. Since 2015, in the east of the country, the effects of Boko Haram at the border with Nigeria have led to multiple displacement in the Difa region. But at the same time, since 2018, on the other side of the country in the west, at the border with Mali, in Tillaberi and Tawa regions, there have been also multiple insurgencies attacks which led to internal displacement within Niger as well. And the crisis has been unfolding since then and led to a major humanitarian crisis, spilling over the borders as well to regional crisis. To that, we need to add as well compounding effects of climate change, natural disasters such as multiple floods, frequent floodings, etc. So a quite complex environment, and the internal displacement being relatively new aspect with which the government had to deal with, and as well as humanitarian actors since 2015. So in this environment, one of the protection advocacy objectives, and the one I would like to share with you today, was around domestication of the Kampala Convention. So creating a legal framework on internal displacement, given that Niger ratified Kampala Convention, how to translate it into Niger context, how to ensure that there is a more protective environment for internally displaced persons.
The protection advocacy example I'd like to speak about occurred in the occupied Palestinian territories. It concerned the issue of tear gas being used in Palestine refugee camps and the particular health impact that they were causing. I was working at the time for UNRWA, the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees. And through our field presence in Palestine refugee camps, we were particularly struck by the impact that tear gas was having on the local communities. There'd been a lot of attention about the use by Israeli security forces of live ammunition, but tear gas was seen a more benign way in which the security operations were carried out. And yet we were seeing within our different health clinics the devastating health impact that they were having, even lethal, with several people being killed. So we identified this issue. We identified the advocacy objective, which was to, first of all, get the Israeli security forces to recognize that this was a concern and to reduce the prevalent use of gas during security operations. And what was particularly important was also that there wasn't only an advocacy objective, there was also a programmatic objective to provide health services to better treat the health consequences of the use of tear gas. So underlying this example that you need both advocacy and programmatic responses to the problem. The way that we gathered and analysed the issue to address this problem and have evidence upon which to advocate was to engage with Physicians for Human Rights, an organisation in the United States who had particular expertise with doctors and physicians and other experts who had seen the use of tear gas in many other contexts and seen where it had been weaponized in a way. There wasn't just a non-lethal response to crowd control that could be used in quite lethal ways. So we engaged them. We undertook a report which documented the different health consequences in the different camps. And we produced a report which was then the basis of further advocacy that was undertaken. So that helped drive both the analysis and then formulated the different objectives and recommendations that we then embarked on subsequently.
In this short session, we discuss Pakistan internal displacement caused by security and military operations in around 2014, between 2019 and 2014, in the provinces of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and the federally administered tribal areas. An estimated 4 million people were internally displaced, and the government decided to start the return process in 2015. So return assistance, which is really the issue for the discussion here, included different type of cash transfer under government and the World Bank funded project, but also non-food item distributed by humanitarian actors. Assistance was conditional to being registered in national database and registration system. And it included one-time unconditional cash grant, livelihood support, but also some kind of housing subsidies. So the main protection concern were that a large number of vulnerable groups were not registered or weren't part of the database registration system, which was a requirement for the government to provide those kind of assistance. Therefore, the priority for the protection cluster was to ensure that the non-registered, which were mostly women and other vulnerable groups, will be entitled to food assistance regardless of whether they will be part of the registration. The objective of Humanitarian Country Team included raising awareness among government authorities about the categories of vulnerable individuals, but also establishing grievance redress mechanism at the embarkation point where people were being registered to return home so that they can raise the grievances and hopefully be addressed as soon as possible. As part of the advocacy, the protection cluster also developed a joint standard operation procedure that included the protection cluster, food security cluster, but also the National Disaster Management Authority. Thank you.